All right, and then I will now turn it over to Tom Dunsing, our Chief Deputy City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Dunsing. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Real quick, I'll sort of frame it's a very short presentation. It'll be mainly with Lisette Camacho, Financial Services Director. Just a couple things out of the chute. We're here to provide information on a proposed prevailing wage ordinance that the council will consider. A little bit of history. There's been discussions off and on, I would say for at least the past year, on a proposed prevailing wage ordinance. The last ordinance that we basically received public comment on was dated January the 18th. And based on public comments, based on discussions and direction from council, that ordinance has been updated somewhat to the ordinance we're talking about today that Lisette will overview. I will say the biggest change from the January 18th to today is the requirement for certified payroll that's contained in the ordinance. And beyond that, it's pretty consistent with what we had on January the 18th. Like Shauna said, we're here to present the information, and any comments that you do make, please make them online. We'll provide that information on where you can make the comments. Those will be included in the information provided in the public hearings that we're going to council. The dates of the public hearings, based on today's presentation, what we have done is move the public hearings. The first public hearing is going to be scheduled for Thursday, April 25th. That is next week. That is just a public hearing. There's no council action on that. And then the second public hearing will be scheduled for Thursday, May the 9th. That is the second public hearing, and that's the regular council meeting. The council will take action on this item. That is a little bit different than what we intended to do. We initially intended to do the two public hearings in May, and it was very simply just to give time to gather any feedback. But the feedback, this is the meeting that we are asking for the feedback, and we'll close it out, and we're able to meet it. We're able to kind of accelerate it and get it to council for first public hearing on April 25th. So with that, I'll mute myself and turn it over to Lisette for the short discussion, and then we're more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. As Tom said, I'm Lisette Camacho. I'm the Financial Services Director. Thank you for attending today's meeting. Again, we're providing information and answer questions, but this is an opportunity for you to provide feedback to the City Council and to us about the city's proposed prevailing wage ordinance. We ask that you utilize the chat feature to ask questions during or at the end of the presentation. As Shauna said, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our website. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have plenty of time to answer your questions. And as Tom said, the proposed ordinance that Council will be considering on April 25th has been updated from the previous versions we've had. And in this slide right here, the main update is the bulleted information that's also in bolded. So the proposed ordinance, I'll go through the requirements of the ordinance, and then we'll go through also the exclusions of the ordinance in the next slides. So the ordinance requires contractors and subcontractors to pay covered employees working on city construction contracts that are valued at $4 million or more prevailing wages. Covered employees means every laborer, mechanic, or other employee employed by the contractor or subcontractor. The prevailing wage is the wages, salaries, and benefits for the same classes of workers in the same trade or occupation in the local area as determined by the U.S. Department of Labor. This ordinance will be effective July 1st. So any contracts solicited and entered into by the city beginning on July 1st or later will be subject to this ordinance. Again, the value of that contract must be $4 million or more. The ordinance requires contractors and subcontractors to submit certified payroll to the city on a weekly basis. They must also submit a signed statement of compliance indicating the payrolls are correct and complete, and that each laborer, mechanic, and any other workers employed under the contract has been paid not less than the local prevailing wages and fringe benefits. Contractors and subcontractors working on federally funded or assisted projects must continue to follow all requirements of the Davis-Bacon and related acts. The proposed ordinance also gives the city the right to inspect all payroll records. The proposed ordinance excludes any contracts under $4 million, also excludes contracts and projects funded by general obligation bonds that are paid by secondary property taxes. The proposed ordinance excludes contracts funded by cities or towns, job order contracts, any contract that is re-advertised because the solicitation received is are less than 3 qualifying bids. Also would excludes contracts for affordable housing projects and any construction by private developers. So some of the penalties in the proposed ordinance includes if a subcontractor or contractor fails to comply with the ordinance, they must correct payroll and pay the prevailing wage by the next pay period. If they continue to not comply with the ordinance, the city can withhold payment and can also suspend the vendor or the contractor from bidding on city contracts for up to 1 year. The Public Works Department is authorized to have access to the records necessary to determine compliance, and the Public Works Department can also implement any administrative policies or procedures to ensure that compliance with the proposed ordinance. As Tom said earlier, the first public hearing is scheduled for April 25th. The second hearing and vote will be on May 9th. Both hearings will be at the City Council chambers. The address is listed on this slide, but there is also a virtual option. So that concludes the presentation. Again, if you want to provide input for City Council, please complete the comment card online. And at this point, we'll open it up for any questions that you may have. No question on the chat. Any questions from anyone online? Okay, does it look like it?
I don't see any either, Lisette, so.
I'll stop sharing my screen right now. Again, Tom, do you want to?
It looks like there's a question in the chat.
Oh, there you go. Ashton, if you want to come off mute, go ahead.
Hi, Ashton Princell with APS. I just wanted to clarify one thing in terms of utilities. It's my understanding with the language that utilities are excluded when it is in the right of way. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But that doesn't pertain to capital improvement projects. Is that also correct?
So it would include capital improvement projects that are, like I said, over $4 million and not paid for by secondary property taxes.
So, right. So my question being that if it's a capital improvement project that exists outside of the right of way, like if SRP or APS needed to drop a box somewhere outside of the right of way, that would be included in that prevailing wage ordinance.
Would the cost of that project be over $4 million?
It depends on I mean, that would depend on the capital improvement project that you guys are working on. We, as contractors, would come in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like if you were building a new fire station, not just as an example, if you were building a new fire station that included it as a capital improvement project, an SRP or APS needed to energize that, we would be included in that ordinance, correct?
If it was a city-funded project, yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Any other questions? And if not, as Tom mentioned, the comment form does close after today, and then those comments will be summarized and included for the council hearings. Any other closing comments, Lisette or Tom?
No, thank you, everybody that attended.
Thank you.